Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be doing is rendering in Blender. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is selecting the camera that we want to render from. Okay. As you can notice that I still have my 3 cameras in from the last project. So now we're just going to go ahead and select one of the cameras and to render it up. So you want to first go up to View, Camera, Set to Active Camera. Now you should be able to see through that camera, all your animation, everything will come and display. Now, a few things that we want to do first is check our settings for our camera. Now, I want to make sure that we're going to be rendering in Eevee and set the render quality. Right now by default is 64. We're just going to double it to 128. The more you double, the more you add, the more taxing it is going to be on your system, but the better quality of a render you're going to get at the end. Okay, so a few things I'm going to be looking at. One of them is the ambient occlusion. Now that's all that fine detail shadowing. Now really for this toon, you probably won't see much of a difference, but if you're going to go with something that's more hyper realistic, a bit more detailed, then you want to definitely have your ambient occlusion on to get that really nice, smooth, soft shadowing. Now the bloom controls the light bloom. That's that kind of haloing effect that you get around lights. You don't want to overdo it, especially for, once again, this toon stylized look. But for hyper realistic stuff, yeah, you might want to go ahead and do that. Now your depth of field, just make sure that it's all set and it's on. We have it all set from last time. Now samples, because we are using such a basic texturing, you don't really have to play too much with the sample rates, but once again, higher quality textures, you might want to up the sampling. Now you want to turn on screen reflections. Now this is if you got anything that's like a mirrored surface, windows, transparency, everything like that, where you would see some reflections back. So in the water, for example, you'll get that. Now the thing is, I turned on motion blur as well. I'll just switch it on and off again so you guys can sort of see. Now you can control the amount of, I guess, blurriness that you want to get from the camera. So this is naturally what you would see if the camera shutter speed was a bit slower, or with your own natural eyes. When something is moving faster in front of you, you're going to get some of that motion blur. Now, I'm not going to overdo it with the motion blur here, but for high-speed movements, actually our pig's moving at relatively fast speeds for its size, so yeah, you would normally see really sort of blurriness of them flying by. But just for the sake of this project, so you guys sort of see, I'm only adding a little bit of motion blur. Now, shadows, really important. Now, go ahead and turn on the high depth. You can see now that the shadow is casting from the pig. If it's turned off, no shadows. It's all about adding that depth in your project. So now I'm just playing around with the light threshold. Not too much. Now, definitely want to turn on soft shadows. Transparency. Once again, if you got anything that's transparent in your project, you must have that on, otherwise it won't render properly. Now your resolution, now I've got it set to 1920 by 1080, that's your standard HD, but if you wanted to set it to 4K, 8K, really whatever you want, you can. But for the sake of not being too taxing on my computer, now, what you noticed here, guys, I've actually just gone ahead and selected the frames I want to render. I'm not going to render the entire sequence because this camera only can see a certain amount of frames, and that's from 0 to 132. So set the frames. Don't overdo it. Don't try to constantly render out every single thing. This is time saving. Okay guys, now I've just set the path by just clicking on that folder. Set your directory where you want to actually save your file. There's a few things you want to make sure you have checked, especially if you're going to farm your project using a render farm, so having a series of computers all linked up. definitely have unchecked override. You want to put in a placeholder and have the file extension there. Now we're going to be using PNGs. And we're not going to render it as a movie, we're going to actually render it out as an image sequence. Now you want to be doing this just in case if the render fails at a very specific point, you can go back at that frame that it failed on and then go ahead and select that frame and then re-render out what you need to. This is what they would do in the industry anyway. They rarely would ever render out as a movie. Make sure you render it out as an image sequence because later on we then convert it into an actual image. We're going to be using Adobe Encoder to convert our PNG images into an actual movie. So once everything's set, guys, just go up to render, then render animation. Alright, so you should, depending on your computer and depending on the performance and depending on your textures, the first frame could take, 5-10 minutes to show up or a few seconds to show up. Now up in the top corner here you can see that these are the frames, so as it's pumping along you will see next image after the other after the other. It gives you an estimated time, but I don't really believe it. Just to show you what it looks like, guys, this is what you should see in the folder that you have specified for all these images to come back into. Now make sure that your folder is all set up how you want it. Try not to just place your images randomly on your computer. Have a proper destination folder. So you can see up there it says screen recordings, pig render cam, and then got cam 1. So I'm going to have cam 2 and cam 3 folders set up as well. Alright, I'm just going to speed this up. So this is not real time, guys. This is being sped up, I believe it's 1,000 or maybe 2,000 times its normal speed. So once again, you must leave yourself some actual time. This may take overnight to render on certain computers, but once it's actually done, this is what you should see inside that folder. From cam 1, image 1, right down to the last 132 frames. So this is what you'll get. Alright guys, next time we're going to be looking at using Adobe Encoder to actually take our PNG image sequence and turning it into a movie. Alright, thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.